Okay, welcome back. This is going to be a little bit detailed. It's something we've been wanting to do for a while. It could have been done better, but this is important information. We're trying to get it out and now. So we'll kind of briefly cover this. Just going to go straight forward. So this is about how could a Trump election impact California? A review of 2016 and what that means for 2024. Let's get started. So recently, Newsweek pointed out that Donald Trump endorsed a Texas secession campaigner on Texas independence and to work towards fair and expedient separation of Texas from the federal government. So Trump did that. That's right, this guy. He endorsed a Texas secession manager, and people are saying maybe that means he's open to secession. The guy's name is Covey. Trump gave Covey his complete and total endorsement as an America First conservative. Covey's listed as a signatory to the Texas First Pledge on the Texas Nationalists Take Texas Back website. I talked to Daniel Miller about that. He said that was one of the most impactful things his organization ever did. This states he will vote for legislation and resolutions to call for a vote on Texas reasserting its status as an independent nation. So Trump did not say he full-on endorses secession, but he did hire a guy. He endorsed a guy who's a Texas secession supporter. So how did he not know that guy supported secession? Additionally, this isn't too shocking. Nikki Haley said that if states want to leave, they have the right to go. Now Trump is officially tolerant of secession, it looks like. This is interesting because his staff, he's tolerant of secession in 2024. I apologize, can't talk today. But his staff suggested secession last time in 2016. Let me show you that. So Sean Spicer, August 16, 2019, how about a trade San Francisco for Greenland? Arthur Schwartz, August 16, 2019, they can have all of California. Wayne Allen Root, March 18, 2018, adios California nation, so wave goodbye. Steve Bannon, October 21st, 2017, California will secede from the U.S. So Sean Spicer, Arthur Schwartz, Wayne Allen Root, Steve Bannon were all well connected to Trump and all talked about maybe you should kick out California. So here's the president talking about, I recognize secession tacitly. And then here's the staff saying, well, California should be seceded from the country. I worked with some conservatives to see if we could advocate for this, and we got on the One American News Network, a conservative network, to talk about how the solution for conservatives was to kick out California. We made this graphic with them, and it wildly was popular across America. And it's for this reason. Republicans continue to hate California. So they hated California forever. When Trump got in, Trump focused on California, and all it did was grow hate. So here's an article from the Los Angeles Times. RNC speakers paint California as a dangerous dystopia. So when they had the last Republican convention that Donald Trump was president, they focused the entire convention on how California is not America. Never has there been a political party that had their annual political convention and it was focused on how one state is horrible and we should all hate it. The Republicans did that for the first time, and the state they chose was California. There it is. So at the last Republican convention that Trump was president, California was horrible, an example of bad America. Kimberly Guilfoyle, Matt Gaetz, etc. They really trashed the state. America's populous state is a dangerous wasteland ruled by liberal politicians who are oblivious to public safety. So Republicans don't like California. They had an entire convention about how we're the anti-America last year that Trump was there. Kind of makes sense because a lot of Trump people hated California anyways. That was all 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. But this goes back a while. So this happened the last year that Trump was president in 2020. Okay. But here's an article from 2024. By 2012, California was the most disliked state of any in the nation, according to a poll of Americans by Public Policy Polling. That was covered by Los Angeles Times. California bashing is a constant on the Iowa campaign trail. So talking about how California was horrible on the campaign trail, not just with Trump, this is a standard thing they do in politics in Iowa. And in 2012, California was the most disliked state in the nation, according to the Los Angeles Times. 2017, a third of Americans wouldn't miss California if it seceded. Survey says a third of Americans say, go ahead and leave California. We don't care. It's Washington Times. Here's 2017. It's incredibly far to the left, culturally and politically, chock full of self-important, politically correct bureaucrats and arrogant Hollywood elites. Time to pull the plug on a failed state is the name of the article. They're talking about Illinois, but then they also talk about California, a failed state. Conservative trolls wish death on California's near their Oroville Dam, 2017. So Oroville Dam collapsed. Most conservatives live in the area of Oroville, but there were a lot of Americans who were saying, I hope those Californians die who live near Oroville. And those were conservative Americans who were trash talking what they thought were liberals. Liberals didn't live near the Oroville Dam. Conservatives did. So here's an article about how conservatives near Oroville were a little bit shocked that there were so many conservatives around America wishing them death after the dam collapsed because they hate California. That's 2017. 2017, rest of USA, Orange County Register, make our day with CalExit. Go ahead and get the hell out. Los Angeles Times, out-of-state conservatives are some of CalExit's biggest fans because they hate us. 2017. Conservatives should fully support California's effort to secede. American Lookout. We should be so lucky. California was closer to CalExit. Joe for America. That was a conservative that was backed by John McCain. CalExit means Americans won't have to bail out California's ticking pension time bomb. That's by Forbes magazine, a mainstream article. Let's kick them out. Here we go. Forbes. Let's go ahead and kick out California. Conservative Daily News. Let California secede. Go ahead and let them leave. 2016. California secession movement. CalExit gets a collective well buy from Twitter. Apparently, the Golden State wouldn't be that missed if at all, according to the Wrap. San Francisco Chronicle, 2016. Why people love to hate California. California secession movement gets collective buy. National voter poll by Fox show that half of Americans wanted California kicked out of the union in 2014. 2014, American real estate company Movato looks at data across America and concludes that California is the least patriotic. 2013, American National Magazine Business Insider conducts a poll showing Americans think California is crazy. July 2013, car sales across America looked at true car sales data and concludes that California and Hawaii are the least patriotic. Un-American is another way to say it. So, you're least patriotic, you're not America. And then here you go, you're least patriotic, you're not America. Then 2012, a survey of all U.S. CEOs by American Magazine chief executive prints a quote from one of the CEOs surveyed saying California should secede from the union. We should let it be its own country. So it's a business magazine of all CEOs, and they printed the idea that business CEOs hate California and it should just be left to go. February 22, 2012, San Francisco Chronicle. Why do so many people hate California? You can just type it in, 2017, 2014, 2018. Reddit asked 1 year ago, 2014. LA Weekly announces in 2012, California's most hated state. There you go. Americans have negative view of California and state favorability poll, 2012. That's by, I think, ABC or NBC, one of the major. Public policy showing polling shows they don't like us. November 10th, LA Times opinion staff admits Americans seem to really hate Californians. 2010, before anyone's talking about Trump, LA Times has to talk about, wow, looks like Americans hate us. 2010, Daily Signal suggests California is not part of America. Time magazine in 2009 says the media portray California as a noir fantasy land of overcrowded schools, perpetual drought, celebrity breakdowns, illegal immigration, hellish congestion, and general malaise captured in headlines like meltdown on the ocean and California wipeout economy. Will California become America's first failed state? The crazy California criticism is likely to continue regardless of the facts. Time magazine. Crazy California criticism likely to continue regardless of facts. 2009, they're pointing out, seems like the abnormal hate on California. 2009, New York Times admits America states hate California. Other states may hate California. That's from the New York Times, 2009. Oh yeah, there's a Pat Robinson on 2008 who was a national celebrity, said we're like Sodom and Gomorrah. 2007, Glenn Beck says a handful of people who hate America today are losing their homes in a forest fire. That was cool. Nobody cared that he celebrated that Californians were having their homes burned down because we hate America. And he said that on Fox, I believe. 2006, Jerry Falwell says, we're basically all homosexual and so it's bad, etc. 2006. So you can go from 2020, right here, 2020, Republicans have a convention on how they hate us. And then you can see it goes 2017, 2016, 2014, 2013, 2012, 2012, 2010, 2009, 2006. They hate California. San Francisco Chronicle, LA Times saying, wow, it looks like they hate us. A lot of newspapers saying, go ahead and secede. We won't miss you. And we just generally, and a lot of commentary by conservatives, we don't view you as America. And, and this is the epitome. When Donald Trump was president, he focused on California. You're many ways out of control. That was an attack on us. Here you go. How California became Trump's most hated state. Trump's attacks on California are short-sighted. Attacking California is easy Trump bait. How much does Trump hate California? Trump really hated California. And in fact, the reaction to Trump was so bad in California, the polls for secession were at 32%, and the underrated support. So here we go, just to remind everybody, 2016, Silicon Valley had people who said they wanted to secede, billionaires. We had an elected official, Evan Lowe, who said he would want California to secede, then walked that back and said he was just kidding. Then we had the joint statement from the California legislature, where they said, let's see here. California State President pro tempore Kevin De Leon, I met him, Los Angeles and California Assembly Speaker Anthony Rendon released the following statement on the results of the Donald Trump presidential election. Today, we woke up feeling like strangers in a foreign land because yesterday Americans expressed their views on a pluralistic and democratic society that are clearly inconsistent with the values of the people of California. So when Trump was elected, he really hated us, and we reacted to that. We backed secession. We had the top business leaders backing secession. We had elected officials backing secession. We had the legislature of California, the entire government of California, referring to America as a foreign land. And that resulted in 32% of Californians saying that they wanted to secede, according to Reuters and Stanford. 32%, etc. Here's the Ipsos Reuters poll that came up with that 32% part. That's the actual document. I also asked Aaron Morris of Reuters the percentage of don't know. This was never published. It was given to me directly. It's 15.5%. Talk to them directly to get that. Here's the Hoover Institute poll. Also showed around a third support for secession. Here's the article that broke that. Right. So despite their differences with Trump, Californians don't necessarily want a divorce by a 2-to-1 margin, 54% to 27%. The survey's respondents opposed the so-called Calexit secession movement. That is not true. So this is constantly what I'm talking about. The Stanford survey and the Reuters survey said, are you for it, against it, or not sure? These surveys will not print the not sure or don't know percentage. They'll just print the people who are for it. That leaves the public to assume that if 27% were for it, then everybody else must be against it. That's not what the survey showed. But you won't see that printed, so they can mislead the public into thinking 2/3 are against it, when actually it's about half are willing to discuss. There you go, not reported. 25% plus 17% equals 42%. They never report the 17%. They will never report. The Reuters report didn't report it. The Stanford report didn't report it. And now we found out the new YouGov report didn't report it. They all asked yes, no, or don't know, aren't sure. And they will not reprint the numbers for don't know or aren't sure. So what happens if Trump gets elected? Well, in 2019, we were able to get an article in to the Stockton RecordNet where we pointed out that if Trump gets reelected, California will go to secession. And we're saying that about the 2020 election. We were able to get that into 2019. We still hold that for the 2024 election. And I'm not the only one to come to this conclusion. Why the U.S. does not get to assume that it'll last forever. Ronald Brownstein, 2023. They're also talking about how America's not holding together super great. Here we go. One wild card, and this is from this article. So we said if Trump gets reelected in 2019, he could relaunch CalExit. And we're saying the same thing for 2024. We're not the only person saying this. So here's the article from CNN. One wild card is what might happen if Trump wins in 2024 and moves to implement some of the policies he's proposing that amount to mobilizing federal power against blue institutions and individuals. Blue state governors, legislatures, and mayors might respond to such an offensive and forceful ways difficult to predict today. So here's CNN saying if Trump becomes elected and he attacks California, we may react very poorly. That's by Ronald Brownstein at CNN. He's basically saying the same thing we did here at CalExit. So that's just the backup. That's not a far-fetched conclusion. Now, the fear of Donald Trump and the fact that he attacked California for so long basically beat it into the California mind that this guy could come back. So the guy picked on us for 4 years, and we had a secession talk during that whole time, that basically it's now permanently baked into the California mind. How do we know that? Well, Roe v. Wade was overturned when Joseph Biden was president. Trump was not president. Biden was president. Trump is gone. Biden is president. Biden's going to return us to decent America. Everybody can calm down. And yet that's not what happened in California. 3 newspapers immediately started talking about secession on their own. None of these newspapers were connected to CalExit. They just did it on their own, and they did it when Roe v. Wade was overturned. Biden was president. Still talking about it. Why, if Joe Biden's president, are 3 newspapers automatically talking about secession when Roe v. Wade was overturned, when Biden was president and Trump was gone? If it was just about Trump, he's gone. There should be no interest in secession. That's not what happened. So here's the San Francisco Chronicle. California has 2 choices in these dark times: lead or secede. That's by Joe Garofoli. I think he runs the San Francisco Chronicle section. 2022. Not alone. San Jose Mercury, Joe Matthews, famous columnist here in California. California needs to be prepared to secede. Also said that Joe Matthews from Mercury News, not a shabby publication. Finally, another publication by Mercury News. Tom Elias, he's a columnist. Will abortion decision revive CalExit? So you had Tom Elias, who's a major columnist, say secede. You had Joe Matthews, who's a major columnist, say secede. And you had the guy who runs the San Francisco Chronicle say maybe we should secede when Roe v. Wade was overturned. Trump was not there. Biden was president. California newspapers immediately went to secession. That's important. The other thing was that although no California governor has officially backed CalExit, all governors for the last 2 decades sound like CalExit supporters. So here's Political Magazine. Jerry Brown, president of the Independent Republic of California. Why? Because he made California seem independent and didn't care what Trump said when he was president, ignoring him. Brown actually said about Trump, we may need to build a wall around California if Trump wins, cutting us off from America. Brown also talked about how we are a separate nation before Trump was elected and after Trump was elected, when talking about climate change deals with California. Nation of California, China, forged strong climate link. There it is. That's the leader of China. It's a little bold to talk about the China-California partnership as though we were a separate nation, but we are a separate nation. Jerry Brown said that. Now, besides him, Schwarzenegger did this. Schwarzenegger also referred to California as a good and global commonwealth, meaning an independent country. We have the population and technological force of a nation state. That's what Schwarzenegger said. And it's when he got elected And he basically gave this speech. Governor Schwarzenegger emphasized that as a nation state, California maintains its own foreign policy, one that differs dramatically from the federal government with respect to climate change. Possibly we no longer really needed a federal government to run our lives. So Schwarzenegger was talking about nation state, independent. We do what we want, independent of the federal government. Gavin Newsom has also called California a nation state. Bloomberg, Los Angeles Times, Berkeley News, San Francisco Chronicle. He did it so much it was everywhere. He called California a nation state during the COVID crisis. At the same time, he also took a page from Jerry Brown. U.S. governors defy Trump by forming regional alliances. This is in Foreign Policy Magazine. Foreign Policy Magazine is a magazine that looks at policies around the world. And what they said was, wow, California basically said, we're not going to listen to the federal government and we're going to do whatever we want, a form of defiance. And he did that to Trump while also saying we're a nation state. So he says we're a nation state, and then he also says we're not going to listen to the federal government. Now, I know Californians don't like Trump, but you can't just say I'm going to ignore the federal government and do what I want as a state. That's called nullification, last seen before the Civil War. But that's what we did. There he is. He's working on these alliances. We're not going to listen to Trump. And here it is. It became a serious issue. So the Center on Constitutional Change in California had to look into, can Newsom call us a nation state? Can he act like we're independent? It wasn't just idle chatter that Newsom was saying this. Everybody was talking about it. That's the guy who's running the state now, called us a nation state, defied the federal government, and caused an entire conversation seriously about if you can do that. Now, here's the problem. After Newsom said, hey, we're going to ignore the federal government under Trump on COVID and do our own thing in, I believe, 2022. Now, in 2024, conservative states are doing the same thing. Here's a map of 25 conservative states who basically did exactly what Newsom did and said, we're going to back Texas and we're going to ignore the federal government. It's a copy of what Newsom did. So Newsom did this with Oregon and Washington, all liberal states. We're going to ignore the conservative president. And then now conservatives are saying, we're going to get all these conservative states together and ignore the liberal Joe Biden president. It's the same concept. And it means destabilization. Now let's get back to Trump endorses a Texas secession campaign manager. Even after Trump was removed from office, Californians were interested in Calexit because of residual fear. We saw that with Roe v. Wade. How do we know there won't be residual fear when Trump is reelected? Well, here's a study out very recently, states whose residents are most likely to support secession. And it says California is tied with Texas for people who would support secession, 29%. I just showed you in 2016, it was 32% who supported secession. Now we're looking at 29%. That's basically 3 percentage points off margin of error. So we still have 1/3 of Californians, as of a few weeks ago, who back California secession at the same amount as in 2016, right before we go into the reelection of Trump with 2024. Now, here you go. Here's a plot showing you how far people are with support for secession. So there's California at the end, Texas and Alaska, and then everybody else drops off. It's really just the 3 states. Now, this is what interested me, was when you look at the chart of secession, how many Democrats and Republicans want it? In almost every state, it's different. So if you look at Texas, 44% of Republicans want to secede, and then 4% of Democrats do, and they're very far apart. But look at California with the red box around it. 30% of Democrats want to secede, and 31% of Republicans want to secede. We are, in fact, the only state besides New Jersey and Minnesota that's like that. So take a look at this map. 47 states, Democrats and Republicans are not aligned at all. Only in 3 states do you have equal desire for secession, New Jersey, Minnesota, and California. Only 3 states, equal representation, Republicans, Democrats for secession. However, California is the only one of those states with a high level of support for secession. So in Texas and Alaska, Republicans and Democrats don't necessarily agree. Let's take a look at Texas. Republicans, Democrats are very far apart in Texas and also in Alaska. It's only in California where they're the same, identical. And California is the only state with high support for secession. So that backs up that we have some stuff going on in California that could actually make this happen. This is a very recent survey showing support for secession. There are also some other surveys showing a lot of people back support for secession. We covered that earlier. So basically the point is that when you look at all of this together, what we're talking about is, let me get to this top page here. In summary, it works like this. When Trump was elected in 2016, massive reaction, support for secession, 32% automatically. Additionally, you had Governor Brown and Governor Newsom pushing back and saying, we'll almost act independently. And you had both of them saying that to foreign governments. Trump was defeated. Biden becomes president. Everything should be fine, but it's not. Roe v. Wade is overturned. Californians immediately react and go right back to secession. Top 3 newspapers. Biden's in, Trump's gone. Why are they scared? Right? You said if you got Biden in and Trump gone, everything's perfect. Well, not apparently to Californians, because when Roe v. Wade was overturned while Biden was president, 3 newspapers said, let's secede. Last time when Trump was president, he picked on California. He had a lot of staff who said, let's kick out California. Now it looks like Trump's going to be elected again. And now he's backing a Texas secession campaigner. So the guy had people who like California secession. Now he's saying he's even backing secession more. The Republican Party hated California while he was president. He focused his hate on California. He held the only convention of a political party focused at hate of one state. Now we're going to a majority of California still back secession. And there was another poll by the Los Angeles Times that recently pointed out that half of Republicans still hate California. So we have the same amount of support for secession inside California. We have the same amount of hate outside California aimed at it from Republicans, which is allowing us to get the vote. And we have a president who hated us coming back. And we have a country that's not coming together. And last time when Trump was there, our governor said nation state. They said we ignore the feds and we entertained the idea of CalExit. We had multiple ballots filed and we had a third of the state in multiple polls saying they want to secede. So what happens when Trump becomes elected again? And the difference is that Trump will be able to be more effective policy-wise, and he is tacitly endorsing secession more. Will we have a more conscious conversation about let's let Trump and California have what they both want and let California secede? That's the possible reaction. You saw all the data we have to put together. The conclusion could be yours and very different from mine. Wanted to make sure that you saw the sources and you heard it here first. Thank you.